I've been a winning poker pro for 7 straight years, and these lessons cost me a lot of money before they finally clicked. Most players will repeat the same expensive patterns for years because nobody forces them to see what is happening. In this video, I'll break down 25 brutal lessons I wish I knew when I started so you can stop paying for them yourself. Have discipline. A clear example is paying off a river bet when you already know you should fold. You think about it for a little bit and say out loud, I know you have it, but I am still going to call. You proceed to put in the chips and almost always lose. If you know they had it, why are you calling? These players also struggle to stick to the strategy they planned before sitting down. The session starts off and they say, I'm going to make sure I open the right hands I know I am supposed to. Then an hour or two goes by and boredom is starting to set in. They start opening and calling hands they would never play at the beginning of a session. I can tell you one thing for sure, long-term winners do not lack having patience at the table. So next time you're bored, think of a way of helping yourself refocus on playing your game and not somebody else's. Profile the player before you choose to play. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is believing every opponent should be played the same way. Is this player a regular who is trying to make money or a recreational who is there to enjoy the game? Have they been tight for the last 2 hours? Or does it feel like they are involved in every pot? Are they calling too much? Or do they look uncomfortable every time a lot of chips go into the middle? Everything at the poker table gives you information, but a label does not mean you have the player figured out forever. A regular is not always good, and a recreational is not always a calling station. Pay attention to what they are showing you and continue to update your read. You must understand who you are battling before deciding how you should battle them. Do not cold call 3 bets. This one is straightforward, so I will give you a quick example. Let's make believe you have pocket jacks, ace king, or ace queen suited or offsuit in the big blind. Cut off the sides to raise, and then small blind is going to 3 bet. Do not cold call hoping to see a flop with these strong hands and then be upset when you miss or cutoff comes over the top with a 4 bet. Instead, look for the cold 4 bets yourself and put the pressure back on your opponents. Trust me, it will increase your winnings and prevent you from playing a bloated pot, not being the aggressor. The players who call too much are the players you must value bet the hardest. Low stakes players love saying, if I bet, only better hands are going to call me. That is not true against a lot of people you are playing with. Some players call with a worse top pair no matter what their kicker is. They call with second pair because they do not believe you. And sometimes they call because they are curious about what hand you have. If someone has been showing you all night that they hate folding, stop becoming timid when you finally make a strong hand. Ask yourself what worse hands can call and give them the chance to make that mistake. This does not mean every top pair needs 3 streets of value. It means you stop checking just because you are afraid of a better hand when the player in front of you keeps calling with worse. If you want simple rules that help you make better decisions at the table, grab my free guide, The Low Stakes Poker Blueprint, by scanning this QR code. It gives you the 100 rules I used to win for 7 straight years. You can also receive it by clicking the pinned comment in this video. People are not luckier than you. When I played at the beginning of my career, it just seemed the people who played the worst cards always won, especially against me. I would remember all of the negative hands, but forget about the positive ones. Our minds naturally hold on to the bad hands more than the good ones. A really good friend of mine who plays poker for a living would always send me bad beats of all the big spots he would lose. It not only mentally drained him, but it wore me out as well hearing the same story over and over again. I told him that going forward, he can only send me hands that he won in cash game or him making a big final table in a tournament. The goal is to start giving the positive side of poker the same attention. When you do this, your mindset will slowly begin to shift and you will reap the benefits instantly. Stop trying to outplay a bad game. You need to know when it is time to choose a better table and a better seat. Players believe if they play well long enough, it should not matter who is at the table, but it matters a lot. If the game is filled with strong regulars and there are no clear players making big mistakes, your edge is going to be very small. Your seat matters too. When the weaker players are on your right, you will play more pots against them in position and make your decisions after they do. When aggressive regulars are on your left, you are going to face more three bets and spend more time playing out of position. Before you settle into a game for hours, look at the players to your left and right and ask if this table gives you the best chance to win. Do not make poker harder just because your ego tells you to stay. You must have range awareness. This takes months and sometimes years to build because the game is so complex. People believe they understand ranges, but yet they make very bad calls or bluffs. Ranges may seem simple pre-flop at times, but they progress very quickly on flops, turns, and rivers. Understanding how ranges change is key to knowing how you should play different situations. Being able to call out combinations of multiple hands in both your range and your opponent's helps increase overall awareness. Do not play too long or quit too early. Have you ever had a session that starts off amazing? An hour or two goes by and you are already up 3 to 4 buy-ins. Now you start to become afraid and think, well, I am up so much, I can just stop now. This is a huge mistake. Right now, you are playing your A game, the cards are coming, and your decisions feel extremely clear. Why not play for a couple more hours when things are going well? Trust me, it works out a lot better in the long run. It is very interesting when the session starts off bad, though, because we want to continue to play as long as possible. We make a really bad call, we lose a huge flip, and then we bluff off an entire stack for no reason. Even after all of this, we continue to keep playing. Why play when things are going wrong and you are not playing your A game? Now, if you are very strong mentally and are playing excellent, then it is fine to continue. I personally do not like quitting early when things are going well or playing longer when I am playing bad. As long as I am playing my A game and staying extremely focused, the math will balance out the hands and sessions over time. Remember, poker is similar to the stock market. Long term stocks and investments always beat quick short term gains. The more players in the pot, the stronger your hand needs to be. Playing heads up can already be complex because you are thinking about one range. When 3 or 4 people see the flop, you now have multiple ranges that can connect with the board. This means a hand like top pair that feels very strong heads up can become much weaker multi-way. Let's say you have ace 7 suited on an ace king queen rainbow flop. Someone bets the size of the pot into 3 other players. Do you really think your ace is always good? Of course not. As the number of players increases, you should become more careful with the hands you bet and call. This does not mean you automatically fold every one pair hand. It means you stop treating a multi-way pot like you only have one opponent to beat. Big hands do not guarantee big pots. Even though you are dealt pocket aces or kings, does not mean you are going to win 100 big blinds or more. Also, if you flop the nut flush or hit a set, you are not always going to win a lot either. Sometimes in these situations, take it down pre-flop and you have to be okay with it. Other times you have the strong hand I mentioned and do a continuation bet and your opponent snap folds. Do not blame the dealer because your opponent did not have a hand that could lose a lot of money to yours. The right perspective is understanding you won the most that specific situation allowed. These are not the spots that are going to determine whether you win or lose in the long run. The situations that will are going to be much more difficult to play and these are the main ones you need to focus on. If you want simple rules that help you focus on the difficult spots that determine whether you win or lose in the long run, grab my free guide, The Low Stakes Poker Blueprint, by scanning this QR code. It gives you the 100 rules I used to win for 7 straight years. You can also receive it by clicking the pinned comment in this video. Do not mistake losing for a downswing. First, let's define what a downswing truly is. It is a long period of time where poker players are losing money. What most players miss is that you have to prove you can win before calling it a downswing. If you have not won at poker over a very large sample size, you can just be a losing player. A few winning sessions in a row does not prove you are a winning player. Playing once a week or every other week and somehow having a slightly profitable year also does not mean you are winning. Just because you managed to win a big tournament for $50,000 one time when you first started playing can be an illusion as well. Most people slowly but surely lose it all back. It is better to understand this than to blindly blame luck or bad beats for your losses. Buy in at 100 big blinds. That also means topping up when your stack falls below the full 100 big blinds. When you get pocket aces in pre-flop, do you want to have 30 big blinds, which is $90 or $150 at 1, 3, and 2, 5? Or do you want to have a full stack with $300 or $500? I am sure the latter is going to help pay some bills and buy groceries for the month. If you have an edge on the entire table, that is even more reason to keep a full stack. By being better, are you going to stack your opponent for all their chips more than they're going to stack you? Of course you will, so there is no need to be afraid. Trying to make the session last longer is not an excuse to play short stacked either. Leave this to the players who are not trying to win at this game. Adjust to the game happening now, not the game you expected. Every table is different, but the same table can also change during your session. Maybe you just made two big bluffs and both of them were called quickly. Everyone saw those hands, so it may not be the best time to force bluff number 3. The opposite can happen too. If you have shown down strong hands and players keep calling your big river bets, continue betting for value when you have it. You should not make a huge adjustment because of one hand, but you cannot ignore what the table has been seeing either. Ask if the game is currently tight or loose, how people are responding to your bets, and whether your image has changed. The strategy you expected to use when you sat down may not be the strategy that makes the most money right now. Do not pay tight players. These players hate losing chips and may only enter one out of every 10 or 15 hands. They fold almost everything pre-flop and continue folding post-flop without a very strong hand. If they check raise, especially on turns and rivers, your hand should hit the fold pile before the dealer even counts out their bet. Don't snap fold, of course, but the point is they always have it. They also have not 3 bet since I first learned the word poker. Use proper bankroll management. You should never sit at the poker table and play with funds you need to use for other parts of your life. Poker is a game played for money, but it should be something you enjoy. Keep your poker money separate from the bank account you use for bills, rent, and every other obligation. Be sure to set limits for yourself as you are playing to prevent a high risk of ruin. An elite poker player once said they never heard of a poker player going broke being too conservative, but the stories of people going broke being too aggressive are endless. Have a warm up routine. Drilling is one of the best ways to improve your poker game. If you are trying to memorize charts, then you are going to be behind from many average players and the elites. Have you ever played sports in high school or college? If not, I am sure you at least went to some type of schooling and was a student of some sort. For schools, teachers give us examples or quizzes to study from before taking an exam. For sports, athletes do hours of drills before they compete against other teams. If you were not aware, I was a sprinter and my main event was the 200-meter dash. In college and post collegiate, I would train on average about 15 to 20 hours a week. I did all of this to prepare myself to run my race in 22 point something seconds. Can you believe that? Almost 20 hours of work for a 22-second competition. My training period was about 3,600 times as long as my race. Now, poker does not have the same ratio, but shouldn't it be treated the same way if you want to become better at it? The competition or exam is when we sit at the table. How can you expect to perform well, never practice enough to make ranges and other poker decisions feel natural? If you don't have a warm up routine before playing poker, a perfect one is reading my free guide, The Low Stakes Poker Blueprint, by scanning this QR code. It gives you the 100 rules I used to win for 7 straight years. You can also receive it by clicking the pinned comment in this video. Be aggressive. The player who applies the most aggression is going to win the most money at the table. You need to be a player who is able to find a lot of open raises pre-flop. You also need to find three bets against your opponents because generally people do not know how to play properly against them, especially out of position. One example of this is cutoff raising, button call in, and we have ace queen offsuit in the small blind. The play that would generate the most winnings long term is not to call and see a flop, it is going to be re-raising your opponents. Post flop is another place to be aggressive. This goes for every street, whether it is the flop, turn, or river. You need to find double barrels sometimes in uncomfortable situations when you continuation bet on the flop. Most players also do not find enough check raises on the flop, so try to implement this into your game. It is okay to check raise a flush draw only on a flop. Calling 100% of the time is the easy option. Yes, you do not have a made hand. If you are playing an opponent who continuation bets all the time, do you think they have enough hands in their range to properly defend? They do not, so try to be more aggressive and find check raises in more situations against your opponents. Playing more poker is not the same as getting better at poker. The importance of studying is one of the most overlooked parts of this game. People believe they need to play more hours to improve, but all they are doing is repeating the same mistakes with more volume. Those mistakes start to pile up like taking out a loan with compounding interest. A warm up helps prepare your mind for the session you are about to play, but studying is how you improve the player who shows up to future sessions. Set aside time to do drills, talk through hand histories with a friend, review difficult spots, and watch strong players explain their decisions. You do not have to be sitting at a poker table to become a better player. Some of your biggest improvements will happen when there are no chips in front of you. Be prepared for a bad run. I am telling you from experience, sometimes it feels like you are running worse than you ever have at the tables. Trust me, it can get worse and worse and continue to go downhill. You will have aces cracked 7 times in a row or run kings into aces 7 times in a row. Yes, it is all possible because variance can be very high depending on the games you are playing. My question to you is, are you prepared to lose 15 or 20 buy-ins in cash game at 1-3, 2-5, or 5-10? This means losing $6,000, $10,000, $20,000, and of course the speed of it depends on how often you play. It's not only about the money, are you prepared for it mentally? Strong mental mindset goes a long way in playing this game. Do not be results oriented. You can play a hand well and lose just as easily as you can play a hand badly and win. Playing the hand bad and winning is often overlooked and ignored. The result means nothing if you did not make the most profitable play for the situation. In the long run, the laws of math will always catch up to the people who make bad plays and find a couple of lucky wins. Think about how you played each hand and focus on progressing your game without reacting solely based on the result. Do not chase losses. I once coached someone who was a slightly losing player. He became a winning player very quickly and was very thankful because now poker was becoming a career for him. A couple of months later, he had a really rough week at the tables. We all have been there before, right? He decided to chase his losses and move up in stakes multiple times. He believed winning a couple of big hands would make everything normal again. This is the same thing as doubling your bet every time you lose playing blackjack or roulette. It just does not work out. He ended up losing his entire bankroll in 3 days. If he never moved up to chase his losses, this unfortunate event would have never happened. Fortunately, he was able to learn from this mistake and recovered. About 6 months later, he started playing again and eventually became one of the most successful poker players I have ever coached. So learn from his mistake and my mistakes many years ago. Never chase after your losses. One way to never have to chase losses is truly understanding how poker works. You can do that by reading my free guide, The Low Stakes Poker Blueprint, by scanning this QR code. It gives you the 100 rules I used to win for 7 straight years. You can also receive it by clicking the pinned comment in this video. Do not let your ego control your decisions. How does this pertain to poker? It does because you believe everything you do at the poker table is the correct way to go about it. You assume plays other people make are very bad instead of taking the time to understand the why behind it. Look at the game from a different angle. You can learn a lot from a play that looks strange at first. The beautiful thing about poker is there is more than one way to handle a particular situation. Be kind to recreational players. They came to the table to have a good time, right? So when they give you a bad beat with a hand you know they should never play, do not insult them. I see this time and time again, and it is not good for the poker economy. Let them have their small wins because they are what truly makes this game profitable. If I lose to them, it is okay because I know if I get into a hand with them multiple times after, I will come out on top. In the long run, I will always win the most against them. If every table were filled with regulars and no recreationals, the edges would become extremely small. Remember, not only do we have to beat our opponents at the table, but we have to beat rake as well. So next time a recreational destroys you in a hand, be kind because they are just there to have a good time. Control your timing. Poker has a lot of timing tells, but the one I want to focus on is the snap decision. Anyone who comes to me for coaching learns how to avoid doing this. When you are playing post flop and face a bet, if you know you are going to call, to not do it in a half of a second. This becomes even more significant when we are on the river. You should take your time and think about what your opponent is telling you based on the size of their bet. Also, try to replay the entire hand to understand everything so you can put your opponent on an exact range of hands. Taking another 10 to 15 seconds can help you notice something important that leads you to the correct fold. Always think ranges first. Poker is a game of range against range, not one hand against one hand. Think about what your range wants to do from your position against the position of your opponent. Not all positions in poker are the same. Each configuration at the table dictates a different strategy we should be playing. For example, when we play a button versus big blind pot, we have a set range that helps guide our decisions. Now, if we were under the gun versus big blind, we are still in position, but our range and their range has changed by a lot. Must be able to take all of this into consideration during every hand you play. Poker players lose at live poker until they learn these 3 rules. Watch this next video to see what they are and how to apply them to your game.